To those who have been cheated on, how did you find out?
I checked his phone. My daughter was playing with it in a locked room with me while I painted the doorway. I'd locked the door so that no one knocked over the paints. I honestly wasn't planning on checking his phone. I was completely absorbed in painting. He kept knocking to ask for the phone, and I kept telling him he needed to wait. I wasn't moving the paint to open the door. When he knocked the third time in less than 5 minutes, it suddenly clicked. The phone was unlocked, and there was something on it he didn't want me to see. If he just respected my boundaries and let me finish painting, I wouldn't have even thought to check the phone. His own behavior outed him. My son's dog had been hit by a car. When she was at home recovering from surgery, she was at the stage where she could pull herself around the room. One night I woke up needing painkillers, which is normal for me. But when I went to the living room to get them, I dropped one. Terrified the dog would find it and die after my son had spent $18,000 on surgery for her. I grabbed my husband's phone, which was charging to use as a light. On the screen were notifications from a website. Won't mention the name, but clearly for hookups. It was around 3 a.m., so I was like, can't process this now. Went to bed. Following day did some Googling. Yep, just as I thought. One of the things that I really can't stand is when you accuse someone of doing something they deny it. So I set about gathering evidence. When he was out the next evening, I logged on to his Gmail. Had always had the password, just never used it. Found heaps more messages, and oh look, the links to the website passed the login through, so I didn't need his password for the site. Even more messages, including ones where he had arranged to meet. All of them were explicit, nothing romantic. Got lots of screenshots. Was getting angrier and angrier at this point. So I signed up to the site, created a profile, no picture, sent him a message that said, "You want to get with me?" Well, guess what? You're done. This is your wife. Saw the message hit his Gmail and get deleted immediately, him on his phone. But not before I grabbed one last screenshot. It really hit the fan when he got home. He always had strict rules about me being friends with other guys, then being secretive about his phone. Him coming home with new clothes for him and our kids from his boss. Where are my new clothes, I wonder? A late night text to her that he sent to me by mistake. Commingling of money which I used against him in court. I stayed longer to gather evidence. By then, he had moved into the other bedroom because he was tired of the kids always being in our bed. The same kids I spent hours with putting to bed, never him. But who would get up later and he wouldn't put back to bed in their own room? I eventually stopped because it was too much effort and frustration on my part. So glad to be out. We were out on a date when she got a phone call. Her fiancé had just been in a terrible motorcycle accident and died. We had been dating for about 8 months at that point. We never talked again. Had a very similar experience, although he wasn't her fiancé, just her long-term boyfriend who got shot at a party and died at the hospital. I wasn't with her when she found out either. She called me crying because her friend got shot, and when I immediately told her I was on my way to take her to see him, to be with her friend group. I wasn't even going to stick around, just give her a ride because she couldn't drive. Then she just cried harder and confessed that I was the dude on the side. I really loved her too. We also never talked again. The guy she was cheating on me with told me. To be fair to him, he didn't even know we were dating at the time. But we had mutual friends that knew we were dating, and so he figured it out. Anyway, it sucked pretty bad, but he was cool about it and also felt bad. He and I actually ended up hanging out for a while, and she basically got totally ostracized from our friend group. So I feel like I came out on top. I had suspicions for a long time that my ex-husband was cheating, and the red flags looking back are clear as day. But at the time, it always got twisted around that I was just a paranoid crazy person. Then at work one night, my phone rings, and I didn't answer because I didn't recognize the number. Immediately after, my husband calls and sounds super freaked out and says, "You're about to get a phone call. Don't answer it. It's all lies." Oh, what? What are you talking about? Melissa's boyfriend is drunk and thinks we've been sleeping together, and he's going scorched earth trying to ruin us because he made this up in his head. Uh-huh. So I call the number that just called me. He is not drunk and found the texts and pictures on her phone and offered to send me the screenshots. I didn't want to see, but I believed him. Thanked him, called my husband back, and told him he better not be at home when I get home in the morning. Similar thing happened to my uncle. The girl lived on a houseboat, and one day my uncle was out doing a mountain bike race, but came off his bike and injured himself, so he had to quit the race. So he comes back to the houseboat caked in mud, and blood already annoyed, and walks into the boat to find her sleeping with another man. Props to my uncle, though. He told us he was so angry he didn't know what to do, and the first thing he saw was her keys to the boat, so he walked out and threw the keys in the canal and then left, and never saw her again. My colleague got laid off from work and was sent home early. He walked in to find his girlfriend going at it with his roommate. Talk about a bad day. Not me, but my parents. Dad found out from a dirty text that his best friend of 30-plus years sent to my mom. Mom was mentally abusive and convinced him not to tell me. I was in college and didn't live at home at the time. I found out a month later when wife of said best friend messaged me on Facebook and asked how I was doing with all of this. Mom left and hasn't talked to me in 6+ years. Dad got remarried. He just had his first anniversary. New wife adopted me, and I have a good mom for the first time in my life. We were at a party together with a bunch of close friends. She said she wasn't feeling that well, and my buddy was leaving early because he had to work in the morning, so he could take her home. Fair enough, we're all friends, we help each other out. I had a weird feeling in my gut, so when I left the party, I made a quick stop at my girlfriend's place. As I entered the cul-de-sac, I saw my buddy's car parked in front of her house with lights off. So I turned my car's lights off and slowly crept over. Then, I was about 20 feet away, so I zoomed over and stopped right in front of his car, and I blasted on the high beam lights as I did this. At that moment, I saw them pull away from a kiss. I pulled up to the side of his car, and we both rolled down our windows, and I just asked how things are going. They didn't look me in the eyes. Then I just drove home. That was it for our relationship. Funny thing it was this day 4 years ago that I found out my wife was having an affair with her boss. I knew something was wrong. The way she acted around me was off. I had asked her point blank if she was having an affair with him. She denied it and suggested we go to marriage counseling. I took this as I was doing something wrong and went in hoping to find the issue that could save my marriage. She lied again in the counseling. This went on for about a month and a half. I had Thursdays off of work, so I got up and worked out, did a little bit of cleaning, and sat down. That moment, my brain went wild with the possibility of her having an affair. So I logged into her Facebook and found the messages between her and him. I called her crying, asking why. She gave me a cold, "I don't know what to tell you," and hung up. I left the house and went to the bank to get my half of the money. On the way, I called an old boss and had a better job in a different city by the end of the day. I am a pretty simple person. I don't ask for much besides trust and truth in a relationship. That was broken now, and I was out. I ended up remarrying a wonderful woman with 2 kids and couldn't be happier. I'd been seeing this girl for 8 months, and flowers arrived from a guy called Matt on her birthday. But she managed to convince me he was just a friend. It wasn't a problem, as I was finally meeting her family for the first time at her birthday meal that same day, and she dropped the L-bomb a few days before. I stayed at hers after the meal, then left for work in the morning. Later that day, I sent her the usual text of, "When you free next?" And then she decided to inform me that Matt was actually her boyfriend of 5 years, and she was moving 300 miles to the house that he had bought for them both, and I would never get to see her again. Safe to say, it left me with just a few trust issues. Did you tell Matt, though? I feel like he deserved to know. I did. I was really pissed at first, not realizing how bad it would be for him. It took me a couple of weeks to realize that was the best thing to do, but unfortunately all I got was blocked. I had suspicions prior to me actually finding out, but it's a fun story. I worked the overnight shift at a printing store. My then-girlfriend was sleeping soundly at our apartment, or so I thought. At around 3 a.m., she walked in wearing an oversized hoodie and leopard print high heels. I'm a bit puzzled. She looks like she's been crying. I ask her what's going on. She says she wrecked her car and needs my keys so she can go home and sleep. I give her the keys, and she leaves. I get home at around 8 a.m. She's sleeping. Her purse is on the table. Her phone is there. I reach for her phone. The purse falls sideways. Out spills condoms. I unlock her phone and go to her messages. There is a long text conversation between her and another man. She had been cheating for a while. I woke her up and asked that she leave that day. My dad helped me drop her stuff off at her grandparents'. She was drunk driving her brand new car home from a party with her other lover when she lost control of her car in a ditch. She reported it as stolen and had a friend give her a ride to my workplace. I've had no contact with her since, and I never want to see or hear from her again. Showed up to the police station to bail him out. I had no idea why he'd been arrested, but assumed it was drinking and driving again. He was a wicked alcoholic, and I was naive and painfully codependent. Was signing forms to pay a bail bondsman. I was naive and didn't realize that a $50,000 bail, which ended up being about a $3,000 bond in cash, was not what one would have for a DUI. Behind me, I heard the bondsman talking to a woman. He asked her how she knew my now ex. "We're dating," she said. I stopped filling out the form, turned around, and asked, "Who are you exactly?" "Oh, you're my name. You don't know who I am." So long story short, he'd been maintaining an ongoing relationship with a woman almost 20 years older than me. The night before, she had put a restraining order on him, which he violated the next morning, hence the arrest and $50,000 bond. When my mom was dying in the hospital, I needed someone to talk to. I texted my girlfriend and got a few one-word responses. About an hour before that, she sent me a selfie of herself, saying she got her hair cut, wanting to know what I thought. It wasn't like her to send such short responses, especially after telling her that I just saw my mom throwing up blood in the hospital. The following weekend, I went to her house. We had planned on working on her yard together. I helped her plant a few things and fixed a few issues on the outside of her house. I spent most of the day doing yard work. The next day, we had planned to go bike riding a couple of towns over. I asked if she wanted to spend the night at my house. She said she had been working hard all week and just wanted to sleep in her own bed alone. I went home. At 4:30 that morning, my mom died. I went to the hospital. I saw her body for the last time. My girlfriend called me at 6 a.m. saying her car had been vandalized. She said she got a call from her friend Tom saying that he wanted to have a beer. She went over to hang out with him and his kids. She said that was the first time she had been to his house in years. Someone spray painted "Stop Sleeping with Tom" on the side of her car, slashed her tires. She wouldn't really talk about how my mom had just died. Things didn't add up. I copied the picture she sent the week before to my computer. Check the metadata in the picture. Her phone tags her pictures with GPS coordinates. She was at Tom's house. She had been going there regularly over the past few weeks. Several of her selfies were of her in her car in his driveway. I ended the relationship. She was dumbfounded. All she cared about was fixing her car and the new issue she had. Didn't seem to talk about my mom dying. I ended up giving a eulogy to a bunch of empty chairs. No one bothered to show up to my mom's funeral. My mom was the last family member I had. My ex sent a text months after that asking me to meet her so she could apologize. I didn't respond. That was over 4 years ago now. I've given up dating completely since then. I have no desire to be with anyone anymore. Class got canceled due to my professor having a stroke. Came home early and walked in on my fiancée with her boss. I lost it a little and hurt the guy. My ex ran to the neighbors and called the cops. I was arrested in my own home and taken to jail while they took him to the hospital. I never touched my ex, and the judge lightened my sentence for not abusing her. The judge also noted that the officers failed to note in their report it was my home I was arrested in. Somehow they had me down for breaking and entering along with 8 other charges. Happened in 2015. Received a letter in the mail from Municipal Court of the City of Seattle. Thought he had another speeding ticket. Boy, was I wrong. He was arrested for soliciting a prostitute and was caught in a huge sting operation. He never said a word. I met him in Seattle the next day. He was attending a business meeting. We live on the East Coast. We flew to Hawaii for our 15th anniversary vacation. Still never said a word. About a month later, the letter arrived. I ripped that bad boy open and you could have knocked me over with a feather. He was hiding all of it from me. He even hid the fact that he had retained a Seattle attorney and had multiple Skype calls with her. It cost over $10,000 to get his ass out of this mess. I screenshot all the texts to hookers that he made, all the email to and from attorney, all the subsequent mail, everything. He said the police lied on their report as that wasn't what happened. Why would police lie? It was all recorded and videotaped, dumbass. What did he get? A slap on the wrist with community service. One day we were at her apartment and she accidentally breaks an empty beer bottle when she knocks it off a shelf. Glass is all over the floor and she's barefoot, so I tell her I'll clean it up. I pick up an empty styrofoam cup from a fast food place that's on the shelf and take the lid off to put the broken pieces of glass inside. Inside the cup was a used condom and a few half-smoked cigarettes. Looks like she had some company the night before. She told me not to put the broken glass in there because she wanted to use the cup. I offer to fill the cup for her. I go to the kitchen and fill the cup with some soda she had in the refrigerator. I put the lid back on and hand it to her. We make small talk as I pick up the broken glass and she drinks the soda. She mentions that the soda tastes weird, and I reassure her that it's probably because she was drinking last night. She agrees and finishes the soda. I begin grabbing some of my personal belongings, cologne, clothing, and my PlayStation. She looks puzzled and asks what I'm doing. I tell her to look in the cup as I walk out the door. I excel at getting cheated on, so buckle up. High school boyfriend, very serious. Admitted one night that he had a major crush prior to our relationship on one of his friends. A few months later, tells me he wants to take a break. Driving by on my way to a friend's house, I find his very recognizable car complete with a distinct license plate frame that I bought him in front of her house. Confronted him, he says nothing happened. She gleefully tells me otherwise and makes fun of me. A few weeks later, he finds out I'm seeing someone else and I don't want to get back together and has a complete breakdown. She's now got like 8 kids by 6 different fathers, and his next serious relationship broke up with him by telling him she was pregnant with someone else's kid. I was playing a game on his phone, and his best friend's wife sent a text that was highly suspicious. I opened the message, and there were her boobs. They'd been having an affair for 3 to 4 years. I was very young, maybe 19, and naive at the time, so I thought it was somehow my fault, and I just needed to basically be better. A couple weeks later, we were both going out of town at the same time. He ended up coming back 2 days early and didn't tell me. The night I got back, he was acting weird and couldn't meet up. I went to our mutual friend's house where there was a party happening, and they told me he'd just left with another girl he'd just introduced them to. He swore she was just a friend, but then broke up with me 2 days later because he and this girl had determined I was emotionally unstable. They were immediately in a relationship. I made some post about it on my MySpace. Yes, it was that long ago. And she had the nerve to read it and then message me about how I needed to behave like a grown-up. As far as I can tell, neither of them ever went anywhere in life, so whatever, I guess. My ex-husband cheated all the time. The girls would add me on Facebook, one lived in our apartment complex, and I caught her in our lobby waiting for him when I was supposed to be at work. Came home early from work another time and found him on webcam with one of the girls who added me who was just a friend. Found condom wrappers under the bed when we didn't use them. Found red hair strands in the shower. My hair was black at the time. Found out he was dating a friend of a friend because my friend was astonished to find out we were still together. Caught him on multiple webcam sites where he was a premium paying member. And finally, when I finally left him, my best friend immediately stopped talking to me and they moved in together. They were together for years until this past Christmas Day when she found out he got someone else pregnant. Anyways, I'm much more self-confident these days. The first time it happened, I was in college. I found out from a good guy friend that my girlfriend was sleeping around at some frat on campus during a party. Apparently, he was invited, and her being a girl meant she was simply allowed in, while I was rejected at the door since I didn't know a brother. I wasn't going to spoil her fun. I knew she was meeting friends there, and my buddy was there to help her if something happened. I simply told her to keep in touch, and I'd meet her afterward while I went to a bar down the street to meet up with some pals of mine who couldn't get into any of the parties either. Well, as it turns out, she had been seeing this other guy at the frat for a while behind my back, and one of his brothers. She ended up hooking up with both of them during the evening. My friend saw her go into the frat house and up the stairs with both of them over the course of the evening. When I confronted her about it, she merely chalked it up to her being drunk and making a mistake. I didn't want to hear her BS and decided to dump her then and there. Because even when you are drunk, you still have an idea as to what you're doing. Yes, I've been drunk before, and I can always remember what I did the previous night. A month later, I found out from a friend in class who was in the frat, she was one dude's ex-girlfriend and was two-timing me and the other dude for a month to get free meals and attention, which she so desperately craved. The second time was 3 years later, with a girl I had been seeing for over 5 months. We both got along and had a good intimate life together, while enjoying nice dates and exchanging thoughtful gifts for Christmas. New Year's came around, and she said she was going to an office party. I said that was fine, as I would be spending it with my folks since I ended up moving back to my old town for work. New Year's Day comes around, and I decide to drive over to her duplex to surprise her with some homemade snacks my mother wanted to give me. I figured she would have loved some breakfast to cure the hangover. This wasn't the first time I came up unexpectedly to make her breakfast or take her out somewhere. I noticed there's another car in her driveway on her side of the duplex. I thought it was weird, but knew that she had siblings, so maybe one spent the night over. I went to the fake rock, got the spare key, and opened the door to find another man making breakfast. This man was not her brother. I looked at him and asked, who are you and why are you in my girlfriend's place? He said, I'm her coworker. Wait, she is your girlfriend? Me, yeah, I've been with her now for 5 months. Who the hell are you? Him, I'm her coworker. I had no idea she was seeing someone. I walked up the stairs to see she was still lying in bed. I woke her up to tell her we are done here. Enjoy your breakfast and enjoy your coworker. From there, I went downstairs, packed up what little I had left over there, and left without saying goodbye. I know it sounds too much like a movie, but a week later, she apparently knocked on my parents' door and asked to see me or to have a way to contact me. I love my parents, and they said, if you want to find him, look for him yourself. You obviously had other priorities on New Year's, and our son wasn't one of them, even though he always made you a priority. I loved her, and she threw that trust into the trash because of a drunk mistake. My boyfriend started a new job, and it was a night shift. The next morning, I texted him asking how his first shift was, but didn't hear from him all day. After I got off work that afternoon, I showed up at his apartment and asked his roommates where he was. They all stared at me, looking scared, and just pointed to his room. I opened the door, and there he was, laying naked in bed, spooning another girl. I slapped him on top of the head to wake him up. The girl woke up and said, "Oh, you must be," and said my name. She knew who I was. We obviously broke up, and she moved in with him that same weekend. I heard a few months later that she was absolutely psycho, and he was trying to kick her out of his apartment. I then also found out later on that he had cheated on me with 2 other girls. Who knows how many more that I didn't know about. Fast forward 18 years, and he's still single because he doesn't know how to respect women. I found his shirt in my laundry when my now ex and I were living together in my final semester of college. A story for those who will tolerate my venting. I'll be the first to admit things weren't great in the relationship at the end. The final 6 months of about 5 years total. I was finishing a dual degree, working full-time, and in an accelerated program where I was staying late to do extra market research on our Bloomberg machines that counted as credit towards some of my professional finance licenses. Basically, I was out working my ass off from 6 in the morning until about midnight Monday through Friday. I figured one semester of craziness would be worth the lifetime we were going to share together. Between 4 hours of sleep a night and going to my university at least 1 day a weekend to keep up on my licensing credits, I was mentally drained. She found other ways to occupy her time, which I supported since I knew those 6 months were going to be nuts on my end. I still wanted her to have fun when I couldn't. One thing I wanted to do for her was that I regularly drove her downtown and acted as a designated driver, so she could have fun going out with her friends while I went back to the classroom to work some more. Since we didn't have much time to do actual date nights in my final semester, we had discussions about how things were going to be great if we could just get through those final 6 months. I wanted it to be a surprise, but since we weren't spending as much going out, I was saving as much money as I could. When she graduated, I could pay off her car, and we would only have student loans to manage. Kind of a graduation gift in a sense that benefited us both. The plan was to pay off her car, I already paid mine off, look for a house close to where I already had a very well-paying job lined up from an internship the previous summer, then propose to her about a year later. Obviously, none of that ever happened. Fast forward to the breakup. Immediately after the fact, she tried pulling the "we never were doing anything together. He was there for me when you weren't. You were never around, and I thought you were cheating on me," with a guy I was friends with online of all places. First of all, I'm not gay. Second, he lived halfway across the country, and I never met him in person. Third, I was with her since high school and could never imagine cheating on her. Lastly, and most importantly, she was the one who cheated on me and proceeded to move out when I was at class that day. I just came home to an empty room where our stuff had accumulated over the 2 years we lived together. She was the hypocritical, double standard type. I caught her going through my phone multiple times to see if I was hooking up with my advisor at college, while simultaneously having only like 4 contacts since I wasn't allowed to have friends. Frankly, male or female, but at the time it was worth it because it was her. The irony of it all, not 2 weeks later, she walked in on him sleeping with another woman, and then had the gall to call me crying about it. She stayed with him, apparently, after the incident. I found out that she dropped out of college, quit her paid teaching intern position to work at a fast food joint, and she got into some heavier drugs. The aftermath hasn't been great. I met with her one more time after that at a Tim Hortons, just to try and close that chapter of my life after I graduated. As a little jab, I rode my motorcycle there, which I purchased with the money I was going to pay off her car with. But honestly, it just made me so sad to see how bad she looked. The beautiful, dainty girl with long, glistening dark hair, sparkling brown eyes, and laughter that could light up a room was gone. She was a husk of what she was and how I remembered her. In just 6 months, everything that made her the woman I loved was gone. She asked me to pick her and her friends up from the bar after a girls' night out. 2 a.m. came and no call, so I figured I'd just head over and wait for them. I was waiting in the parking lot and I saw her brother come out, so I started walking over to say hey. Then she came out holding hands with some random guy. So I ducked between cars and watched. They walked to the back of the parking lot. She took a second and pissed in the bush, then continued to the park around the corner. I followed several paces back and just listened. They went to the park and she performed a certain act on him, then they went back to the parking lot. I was 10 feet behind them when she told him that her and her boyfriend just broke up. So I said, "Is that so? I don't remember having that conversation." She looked horrified. I walked to my car and she jumped in saying the usual. "It's not what it looked like." I pulled up to her brother and told him to get her out of my car. Totally cool guy. So he was trying to convince her to get out. She said some BS, I called her a whore, and she punched me in the side of the head twice. Her brother grabbed me through the window to hold me back. I told him I'd never hit a woman and just get her out. So her friends basically dragged her out of my car. But just before she got out, I ripped her shirt off and left her in the parking lot topless. Her friends called me 10 minutes later, asking if I'd heard from her because she was missing. Told them she could be dead in a ditch for all I care. And that was the last I heard from any of them. Spoiler, she's still alive. The silver lining? If I never dated her, I would have never met my wife of now 12 years. I have a good one, unfortunately. To set the scene, it's my birthday, and also 2 days before me and my ex-boyfriend of 2 years leave to go on a huge family vacation for my cousin's wedding. To celebrate my birthday, my family threw a little backyard barbecue for me at my aunt's house. I was young at the time without a car, so I had asked my grandmother to pick me up and then stop at my boyfriend's house on the way to pick him up as well. I get picked up and I'm calling my boyfriend on repeat, but there's no answer. As we arrived at his house, he's still not answering. I decide to go around his house to his bedroom window to knock on it to wake him up since I'm assuming he's sleeping. Well, I was right. He was sleeping, and so was the random girl in bed with him. I immediately run back to my grandmother's car, and she takes me to my aunt's. I'm having a huge panic attack and uncontrollably crying. I decide to just take off running back to his house. I hate running, and can't go for longer than 3 minutes usually, but somehow I ran for 25 minutes to his house. No problem. I get there, and at this point my aunt and cousin drove after me and arrived right after me. I try the door and it's unlocked, so I barge in and make my way towards his room. I screamed at him. My cousin called both of them some choice names, and my aunt yelled while attempting to ban him from our vacation in 2 days. The girl left, and my aunt and cousin dragged me out and back to the barbecue where I spent the rest of my birthday a wreck. But young me was incredibly dumb, so he ended up coming on the vacation with us and even still attending the wedding to boot, with us staying together for 4 more years. Thankfully, he is my ex, and I am now with a man who would never think of treating me like that. Oh man, this is gonna be a long one, but stick around. It's worth it. So I was 18 at the time, and I wasn't being forced to move out. But my girlfriend at the time was, so we ended up getting a place together because she couldn't do it on her own. So me and this girl had gotten a place together in September of whatever year it was. Well, this particular situation happened in, I'd say May, October, or November of the same year. Me and my girlfriend worked different shifts. She worked first shift 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, and I worked 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. Saturday through Tuesday. One of the days I wasn't working, I wake up early, make sure she got her stuff for work and everything before I lay back down and enjoy my day off. That was pretty much my routine when I wasn't working. When she left, I would grab her iPad and play games, because the screen was much bigger than my phone. Anyone who has multiple Apple products knows that if you have your iMessage linked to either an iPod or an iPad, you can send and receive messages to other iPhone users. I'm an Android guy, but have had my fair share of iPhones and such. So as I'm playing a game, an iMessage came through, which wasn't uncommon because she texted her family and friends and stuff, so I didn't pay it any mind. Kept playing my game like normal. Then another message comes through. Mind you, it's all of 6 a.m. and she's texting her ass off, which is uncommon. A couple of hours go by and I wake up from a little nap or whatever you want to call it, and there were loads of unread messages on the iPad. But when I unlocked it, it went straight to the messages of her texting her ex-boyfriend, and the timestamps began the night before. Did a few calculations and realized that she was texting the dude while we were grocery shopping. So I asked her and she lied, of course. Then she stopped and her face dropped. I'm assuming this is the moment she realized I had seen everything. Her name was also on the lease of the apartment. Fast forward to a couple days later. She packs her stuff and leaves the apartment and moves back home with her grandparents. So me being the guy I am, the day after she leaves, I go down to the leasing office and pay like $300 to $400 to get my name taken off the lease. Packed the remainder of what was in the apartment and moved back home with my dad. Her name was still on the lease and she got evicted a couple months later. She didn't, however, learn that until she attempted to get another place and they denied her because of a prior eviction, so she sues me and tries to take me to court for it. Well, she lost and got stuck with $3,000 for unpaid rent, late fees, etc. Her credit was the definition of screwed, and she earned every point it dropped because she wanted to be a cheater. Good times. I was with this guy for 3 years. We were living together for 2 years at this point. We were living at his mom's house. After a while of being together, I realized he was never going to change. No ambition, suspended license for years, selling drugs, and that I wasn't in love with him anymore. So I decided I would move back home and break up with him after I got all my stuff out because I didn't want any drama. I told him I was moving back home to save money. I was paying his mom rent. I went to the house while he was at work to get the rest of my stuff, and as I was walking out of the room for the last time, something shiny in my peripheral caught my eye. It was a condom wrapper, just outside of the trash can. I looked in the trash can and saw 2 condoms and another wrapper. I had lent him some money a week or 2 before, so I sent him a text saying, "Hey, I saw your trash. I want my money back. We're done," or something to that effect. He blew my phone up with calls, freaking out. He said it was one of his brothers. Then he said he used it on himself. I just kept saying over and over that I wanted my money. I wasn't in love with him anymore, but it still really hurt to see that he had done that in our bed. His mom really loved me, and he knew that she would be livid if she found out, so he didn't tell her. She would text me saying she hoped we would get back together. His little brother wanted to know what happened. I told him if he didn't tell them that I would. I don't really remember what happened after that, but she didn't text me anymore. I worked all around the world and would often travel for months at a time on business trips. My regular house cleaner of several years had passed away, and I had only just appointed a new one. It was just me and my boyfriend living together, and had been for 5 years. My new cleaner messaged me while I was away on a business trip. "How many people live at your place?" "Just me and my boyfriend." There are things going on which you don't know that you should know. I texted my younger sister to go around and see if everything was okay. It was about 9 p.m. local time. This guy had taken all of my clothes and belongings and put them in storage. All photos of me in my house, which I owned, were replaced with him and this woman. There was a suitcase of a woman's clothes in the bedroom. He was pretending everything was his. That the house, cars, etc. were all his. Who knows how long this was going on for, or how often he had the house rearranged and reassembled each time I was away for business. I texted him and told him to get out of my house. He replied and asked if he could go back and get his stuff, and to make sure no one else was there so he wouldn't get caught. Scumbag left back to New Zealand and took all of the gifts that I had bought him along the way. He didn't even reset the house this time, so when I came back, I came to a house with none of my clothes and none of my belongings. I was at the party she was having at her parents' house because they were out of town for 3 days. She was mingling the whole night while I stayed in her room, looking over her dog and chilling with one of her friends that also wasn't much of a party person. I was just chilling in her room until the party was over and everyone was gone. So I get a little antsy and wind up starting to look for her toward the end. Well, after about 15 minutes of looking around the relatively tiny property, I couldn't find her. The only places to look that weren't searched through were the bathroom and her parents' room. I believe her parents' room was locked, so it was down to the bathroom, which, funny enough, was right next to the room I was staying in the whole night. Lo and behold, I hear some things through the wall and door that I'm not very fond of, and the pieces are beginning to click in my head. I start to abruptly leave when one of her friends catches me about to head out the door. Her: "Hey, where you going?" Me: "I'm leaving. I can't find her, so I don't want to be here anymore." Her: "Wait, I'll go find her." Her friend proceeds to look everywhere I did to no avail. So I suggested she check the bathroom. She knocks, the door opens, and what do I see other than a guy that I don't know, and neither did my girlfriend, zipping and pulling up his pants. And who's behind him? Yep, worst night plus day after that. She tried telling me she got drugged, but yeah, we split after that. She started giving a lot of excuses as to why she wasn't coming home after work. Shopping, the gym, dinner with friends. Then texting her became really cold. Just one-word answers when I'd ask how her day was going, what she had for lunch, etc. Then one day we were out somewhere and she wanted me to take a picture of her with her phone. She hands me the phone and I enter the password. Doesn't unlock, try again, no dice. I hand it back to her. Hey, did you change your password? Nope. And I watch as she enters the exact password I knew. We each knew each other's phone passwords, but she adds a 1 to the end. Instant red flag. I take the picture and don't say anything. The next morning when she was showering, I snooped and found a literal ton of sexting messages. That was a Tuesday. I told her to have her stuff gone by that Saturday, or it was going in the street. He was a creature of habit. He had a weekend where everything was just off. He wasn't communicating like he usually did. He lied about where he was going or what he was doing. I had my suspects, but nothing was concrete. He was supposed to meet me at church on Sunday, but when he didn't show up, he said he was sick. I offered to bring him food to make him feel better. I showed up to his immaculately cleaned house. My pictures weren't on the walls anymore. His bathroom smelled like the kind of cologne he would wear when going out. Then I walked into his bedroom, and he was sick, in a perfectly made bed that obviously hadn't been slept in. I realized then that I didn't need the concrete proof to know I didn't belong there anymore. I ended the 4-year relationship the next morning. He was engaged to the other girl less than 2 months later. I don't think she ever knew I existed. Oof, I hate that I have a few for this, but here goes. First time was she had fallen asleep on the couch when I got home from work. Noticed her phone on the floor, so I picked it up to set it beside her, and she immediately got up and said, "Don't!" So of course, that's a huge red flag. Went through messages, and she was texting 3 other dudes, one of which was my brother, and the other 2 she had been physical with. The second time, I came home from work early to find her with someone else. The third time was a relationship that started together but ended up being a long-distance relationship. She moved to California to be with family, and I was actually going to move there too. I had suffered a heart attack and was recovering, so I hadn't moved yet. A mutual friend of ours informed me she had been on Tinder and a part of a threesome. I confronted her, and she lied, but I later found proof of her Tinder and such. Later, she then broke up with me and played victim, and has continued to do so in the 3 years since we've split. My girlfriend's boss called me up one afternoon and said he's got some news for me. I thought something bad happened to her, but he was just calling to tell me he was sleeping with her. I was shocked. I asked him why he was telling me this, and his answer was he gave her an ultimatum and she chose me. Yay! When she got home that night, I was so furious I confronted her, packed up my stuff, and walked out, never looked back. Her personality just changed, and she was acting weird. She also kept working late or had excuses for not going out on our usual nights. So I borrowed my friend's car, camped out until she left her house, and followed her right to her ex's house. Waited a few, went up to the window, and saw them making out on his couch. Her roommates called and asked me to meet them for lunch, said it was important. I met them, and they told me she had been cheating on me with her ex the entire time I was deployed. They showed me pictures, back when you had to get pictures developed. They said I was a good man, and I didn't deserve to be treated like that. They had collected my things that morning when she left for work and gave them to me. I drove to her work, walked up to her, showed her the pictures, and demanded the ring back. She gave it to me and I left. Later, she called me yelling about me conspiring with her roommates, basically trying to make it my fault. She asked what I was doing meeting with them. I said, it's called respect and closure, and it sounds like this. I unplugged the phone, landline, waited an hour, plugged in the phone, and called the phone company. Said I needed to change my number and never heard from her again. I took it really rough and am thankful for her roommates and the friends that got me through probably the darkest time of my life.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it. Leave a comment down below to tell me any video ideas you would like to see next.